This is a guy who's highly opinionated. Usually I don't like opinionated people, but I always like this one. You know, he knows about rigged elections better than anybody. But when I was in exile, we were still friends. The best thing he could do is not buy oil and gas from Russia.
When Donald Trump welcomed Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan to the White House this week, their first meeting since 2019, the conversation quickly turned to familiar territory for both leaders: allegations of rigged elections.
It's a pleasure to be with President Erdogan of Turkey, and we've been friends for a long time, actually, even for 4 years when I was in exile, unfairly, as it turns out. Rigged election, you know, he knows about rigged elections better than anybody. But when I was in exile, we were still friends. That's always a good way to find out, test a friendship. But
this wasn't just casual banter. Both men have faced serious questions about the integrity of their electoral victories. Trump's false claims about the 2020 election are well documented. But what about Erdoğan's record in Turkey? The evidence suggests a troubling pattern. Multiple forensic studies of Turkey's 2023 presidential election revealed statistical irregularities pointing to ballot stuffing in Erdoğan's favor. Around 2.4% of electoral units in the first round showed patterns consistent with manipulation, according to research published in NIH. Remote areas with few ballot boxes displayed unusually high turnout for Erdoğan, with shifts between voting rounds that researchers say suggest voter coercion or intimidation. International observers from the OSCE found that while the election offered voters a genuine choice, Erdoğan benefited from overwhelming media dominance. Around 90% of Turkey's media is government-controlled or aligned, creating what observers called a severely unbalanced playing field. During the critical pre-election period, Erdoğan received exponentially more television coverage than his opponents. Praising the Turkish leader despite his crackdown on opposition politicians and journalists, Trump said of Erdoğan,
"This is a guy who's highly opinionated. Usually I don't like opinionated people, but I always like this one. But he's a tough one, and he does an amazing job in his country. And we've had tremendous relationships, both having to do with war and having to do with trade."
The irregularities translated to roughly 342,000 extra votes for Erdoğan, about 0.64% of the total vote, less than his overall 4.36% margin of victory. While this suggests the fraud alone didn't determine the outcome, international observers declared the election free but not fair, meaning the voting process appeared orderly, but the conditions for genuine democracy were absent. Under Erdoğan's rule, authorities have systematically targeted Turkey's main opposition party with repeated arrests, including Istanbul's powerful mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, who has been detained since March on corruption allegations he denies. Legal restrictions on freedom of expression, assembly and association further tilted the electoral field against opposition candidates. The warmth between Trump and Erdoğan masked serious disagreements over Turkey's continued relationship with Russia. Trump made his position clear during their joint appearance.
He likes being neutral, so do I like being neutral. But he's somebody that if he got involved, the best thing he could do is not buy oil and gas from Russia. If he did that, that would be probably the best thing. He knows Putin like I know Putin.
Turkey remains one of Moscow's biggest customers for oil and gas exports, alongside India and China. Data shows that Russian gas reaching Europe through Turkey rose by more than 26% earlier this year, directly contradicting Western efforts to starve Moscow of energy revenues during its war in Ukraine. When pressed by reporters about whether Erdoğan had agreed to stop buying Russian oil, Trump's response was telling,
Did Erdogan agree to stop buying Russian oil?
I don't want to say that, but if I want him to, he will. Yeah.
But he didn't think that
Well, I didn't say, okay, you stop, but I believe you. I believe he will stop it, yeah. You know why? Because he can buy from a lot of other people.
The lack of a firm commitment highlighted the delicate balance Turkey maintains between its NATO obligations and its economic interests with Russia. The elephant in the room was Turkey's desire to rejoin the F-35 fighter jet program. In 2019, during Trump's first term, the United States expelled Turkey from the Advanced Warplane program after Ankara purchased Russian S-400 air defense systems. The Pentagon feared that Turkey's use of Russian technology could feed sensitive data about F-35 capabilities back to the Kremlin.
Well, we'll have to see. We haven't even started yet. But I know he wants the F-35, and he's wanted that, and we're talking about that very seriously.
Trump also hinted at progress on sanctions relief as well.
Against sanctions against Turkey could be very soon.
Mr.
If we have a good meeting, almost immediately.
The meeting also touched on broader Middle East issues, with both leaders claiming momentum on ending the war in Gaza. Despite his sharp criticism of Israel's conduct in Gaza, Erdogan responded,
"Yes, I believe in the peace efforts that President Trump is leading, and together we will be able to overcome the challenges in the region."
The White House meeting represents more than diplomatic courtesy. It marks a fundamental shift in how Washington views Turkey's role in global affairs. After 4 years of distance under Joe Biden, who labelled Erdogan an autocrat, Trump is betting on personal relationships to advance American interests. Atlantic Council experts see the meeting as successful on multiple levels. The very fact that it occurred ended 6 years of arm's-length distance between the country's leaders, despite their shared strategic interests. The optics were overwhelmingly positive, with both men avoiding embarrassment while highlighting areas of cooperation from Syria to Ukraine to ending the Gaza war. Behind closed doors, concrete progress appears to have been made. 2 major energy agreements were reportedly formalized during the meeting. A 20-year liquefied natural gas purchase deal valued at $43 billion and a civilian nuclear agreement involving small modular reactors. These deals offer Turkey alternatives to Russian energy dependence while boosting American commercial interests. Trump's praise for Erdogan extended to regional affairs.
Well, I think President Erdogan is the one responsible for Syria, for the successful fight in ridding Syria of its past leader. And I think this man is responsible. He doesn't take the responsibility, but it's actually a great achievement.
The strategic calculation is clear. Few world leaders can claim relationships with both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, making Turkey a valuable mediator in conflicts from Ukraine to the Middle East. Trump recognizes Turkey's growing regional influence in Syria, Libya, and the South Caucasus.